on my last video, somebody commented, "You must discuss the Christopher Scholtes case for this series. His wife is the ultimate dangerous pick-me. It literally killed her kid." And you know what's so funny? I remember hearing about Christopher in this case in Arizona, and I didn't want to attack his wife because the case had just, jumped on the scene. There was a lot of information, we didn't really know because again, this is being investigated. And it's so terrible when you hear how this story comes to light and more details comes to light, because the reason why I love this comment too in YouTube, and thank you so much for that comment, but also his wife is a pick-me. And when I say that she's a pick-me, she is one of the most horrible pick-me's on the planet. And the reason for this particular, case is because if you read and you go into the story, and I'm going to read about it a little bit, later, but he left his daughter, his 2-year-old daughter, in his truck. And this is Arizona. And in Arizona, the weather gets to 109 degrees. And he claimed that he left her in the car and he left the AC on. But then he also said that he knew that his car automatically shuts off after 30 minutes. Now, put that aside. I think that the investigators spoke to the children, they spoke to the wife, they read text messages, they're doing this whole investigation. And so I think he has a 5-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old daughter. And the 9-year-old daughter says, yeah, he does this to us all the time. It even says that the older children said, "Oh, daddy leaves us in the car. He left us in a car 59 times. This is something that he does deliberately." What's even more troubling is that when you look at the text messages from his wife, that's the reason why I want to give her the pick-me label. Because when you read the text messages, the wife, she's very upset, one, which we understand, but she says something to the effect of, "I keep telling you to not leave the children in the car." So this is a pattern of behavior for this father. This is a pattern of behavior for this man. And he's consistently doing it. He's consistently incompetent. And she's consistently sees that he's incompetent. And she's consistently leaving her babies in the care of this incompetent male. Right? And let's just go to the NBC News article. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just graze over it because it makes me so angry that she knew that this man wasn't capable of doing what is right the first 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And they live in a state like Arizona. In Arizona, there's photos on Google of garbage cans melting on the street. That's how hot it gets in Arizona. So he leaves this baby in this truck and he goes inside. And while he's inside in his air-conditioned home, because that's just standard for Arizona, he has his daughter in the truck dying. Now, I understand if you left your child in the truck. Well, I don't understand because you're never supposed to leave the kid in the car. But say, for instance, he had to carry in, 40 pounds of groceries. Okay, you carry the groceries in or you put the child in. I always think you're supposed to kind of put the kids in first. It's invaluable merchandise. It's invaluable to have your children safe first before the groceries. But I get that some people are busy and they just do things the way they do things. It makes sense for you to kind of put the kids in the house first and then go back to get your groceries. But say, for example, he didn't do that. The child was asleep. He said, "I'm going to go run in and out and I'm going to come back and get her." I understand that. But if you know that your car shuts off after 30 minutes, that means that he sat in that house for more than 30 minutes while his daughter was in this hot car dying. So what was he doing for 30 minutes that he didn't know that his 2-year-old was not in the house with him? This is negligence. This, to me, a lot of people say, "Oh, it was an accident." With men, it's always an accident. I don't believe it was an accident because if you know that this is a pattern of behavior for this man, why wouldn't you take precautions so that your children are not left in his care? Obviously, he's not responsible. There's another text message and it says something to the effect of, he was driving down the freeway 104 miles per hour with alcohol in his system and he had his kids in the back seat. This is what I'm talking about in regards to the pick-me. Not only is the pick-me dangerous to herself and other women, other single women around her, she's also dangerous to her children. And she's only dangerous because of her close proximity to the man that she just can't let go of, right? And the article reads, the Arizona father who was arrested last week and charged with murder after his 2-year-old daughter died in a hot car had been distracted by video games and regularly left his kids alone in the car, court documents revealed. Christopher Scholtes, 37, was arrested on July 12 on second-degree murder and child abuse charges by Marana police. It says that Scholtes had arrived home on July 9th and left his daughter, who was sleeping in a car seat in the back, inside with the vehicle on and the air conditioner running, according to police. He told detectives he didn't want to wake her and left her there so she could continue sleeping. The little girl was left in the car in the driveway, sitting in direct sunlight for 3 hours in scorching 109-degree weather, authorities said. According to the interim complaint filed by the Pima County District Attorney's Office, Scholtes told detectives he arrived home at 2:30 p.m. the day of her death. However, security videos from adjacent homes show that the car arrived home at 12:53 p.m., just after his other 2 children arrived home. He was seen walking from the car to the front door by himself. The complaint said that Scholtes knew that he left his daughter in the car, and he also knew the car and the AC automatically shut off after 30 minutes. At 4:08 p.m., his wife's car was seen at the home and the 911 call was made at 4:16. So think about it. Other cameras in the neighborhood shows this man going into his home at 12:53. 12:53. His wife, who I'm saying is a pick-me, gets home at 4:08 p.m. and she's performing CPR. If you watch the video, the body cam footage, she's there desperately trying to perform CPR after she gets home from work, right? And 4:16 is when they call the police. Video surveillance does not show Christopher checking on his vehicle or daughter during this time frame, the complaint said. It also says when the wife, the pick-me, arrived home, the mother asked where the 2-year-old was, and Scholtes checked the rooms of the home before realizing he had left her in the vehicle, according to the complaint. He went back to the car, which was not running, and found the 2-year-old unresponsive in the back seat, still strapped to her child restraining system. This whole thing is so disgusting, but the article continues. It says the mother performed CPR on the child until first responders arrived. The child was taken to a hospital via ambulance where she was pronounced deceased. Detectives spoke with Scholtes' 2 other children aged 9 and 5, and they said Scholtes had left all 3 children alone in a vehicle regularly. Further, they said he got distracted by playing his game and putting his food away when their sister was in the car. Local CBS affiliate KOLD reported that a PlayStation was taken by authorities along with other electronics and a 2023 Acura MDX vehicle in the investigation. That's just still tragic. As his 2-year-old daughter was being transported to the hospital, Scholtes received a text message from his wife that said, "I told you to stop leaving them in the car. How many times have I told you?" And he responded, "Babe, I'm sorry," according to the complaint. So this is behavior that his wife knew that this man was doing, and she continued to leave her children in his care. Can you imagine going through a labor, going through a pregnancy, going through a birth, all to lose your child to a man who basically, just had sex with you and that was it? That was his only contribution to this beautiful life that you just lost? His only contribution was that. And even with that, he only had one job, and that was to make sure that these girls stayed alive, and he couldn't even do that. And the reason why I'm so upset with her is because she knew that he was incapable of taking care of these children by himself. But the pick-me will always make excuses for the husband. The pick-me will always make excuses for the man. And I bet you any amount of money, every girlfriend that this wife had that's in her life knew about these complaints with him leaving the children in the car. Remember, I told you, married women and women in relationships use single women as soft landings. They use single women as toilets. They use single women as venting machines. They use single women to kind of get everything off of their chest when it comes to the men that they're with. So I'm sure this pick-me, this woman who's the mother of these 3 girls, I am sure that all of her friends knew that her husband loved to play video games more than he loved taking care of his children. Everyone knew. Everyone knew, but the pick-me would never take action in doing something to protect her own children. And this is why you can't feel sorry for the pick-me. This is why you can't have any sympathy, because at the end of the day, like I said before, the flex for the pick-me and the flex for the married woman and the flex for the girlfriend is that I have a man, and that's the only requirement, is that they have one. He's not even a good man. They just have one laying in bed with them at night. Sometimes not even that, because we said that before. There are millions of married women in America. They don't even sleep in the same bedroom with their husbands, right? And we said that, when a man starts to take marriage seriously, or when a man starts to really, home in on what he's supposed to do as a husband, it happens after the marriage when he starts to look for other women to sleep with, right? We said that as well. The article ends and it says, again, the wife texts him and she said, "How many times have I told you?" And he responded, so this is behavior that she knows. It also says she texts, "We lost her. She was perfect." And he said, "Babe, our family, how could I do this? I killed our baby. This can't be real," per the filing. Scholtes was described as a lifelong Arizona resident, unemployed. This man is unemployed, doesn't even have a job. His wife is the one holding things down. And that's another thing with the pick-me. The pick-me will present to the world that they had these good husbands and these good boyfriends at home, when in actuality, at home, she's miserable. She is bloody miserable as all hell. She's miserable, but she still has to keep up appearances. Remember, I told you that it really, in this generation, if it wasn't posted online, it really didn't happen. So if women are not posting about how happy they are online, how wonderful their husbands are online, it really didn't happen. So they kind of have to post it to lie to people to make sure that they keep up that appearance. So this article says that, Scholtes was described as a lifelong Arizona resident, unemployed, with no history of felony convictions or nor prior misdemeanor domestic violence arrest. It also says the complaint suggested that he not be released on personal recognizance. It's not immediately clear if Scholtes has an attorney. Now, here's the article where everyone got upset with his wife, because this is what she said when he finally made it to court. And his wife spoke in court on his behalf. Why, I don't know. To me, this is just more pick-me disease behavior. But it says, another article reads, Scholtes' wife reportedly spoke during his appearance and said she wants him back home with their other children to begin the grieving process. She also said he is not a risk to the community. Arizona's stark heat and fatal parental misjudgment claimed the life of yet another child this month. And this is what I'm talking about. You would think that a wife who had to remind her husband over and over to not leave the children in the car would be pissed off enough to never want to see this man again, considering that her child is dead. But no, she goes in front of a judge and she says, "I want him home. I need him home so that we can grieve." He can grieve in a prison cell, ma'am. You can grieve with your other 2 daughters and hopefully keep them alive and never have them in the care of this idiot again. But the pick-me has to keep this going. And if you look at the photos, you're going to see what I'm talking about in regards to this family. She's keeping it together. She's trying to do everything she can. It says that this man is unemployed. And if you look at the body cam footage of, the police officer finally getting to the house, you see that he has this playroom of sorts. It looks like he has thousands upon thousands of dollars of equipment. He has a drum set. He has a piano. It looks like he's, probably wanted to be a musician. I'm not really sure. But the pick-me will also keep up appearances so that it looks like the person or the house or the situation that she's in is picture perfect to the public. She's breaking her back all to keep up appearances. This is pick-me behavior. Married women can also be pick-me's. They could be pick-me's to their husbands and pick-me's to the narrative that it's not all men. There are some good men, but they're not even with good men. They just want you to believe that their men are good. They want you to believe that they are with good husbands. They want you to believe that they are with good boyfriends, but they're not. They are not with good boyfriends. They are not with good husbands. They are with trash men. But again, they have to pretend to keep you guessing, to keep you wanting to be in their shoes. You should never want to be in her shoes because she doesn't even want to be in her shoes. What woman works a full day shift? What woman works a full day's work and comes home and has to perform CPR on her dead 2-year-old? What woman wants that life? What woman wants that existence? What woman signs up for that? No woman signs up for that, but the pick-me has to get single women to carry this thing on that, no, it's not all men. And I'm telling you that it's all men. And the pick-me, the reason why she's dangerous is because she's a fucking liar. She's a liar. And a lot of the times what happens behind closed doors, the pick-me does not want you to know. She doesn't want you to know because she wants to trick you into joining her. She wants you to get the man so that you can be miserable with her. The reason why she's also always trying to hook you up or trying to tell you to continue to have hope. One day you'll have what I have. And then 10 years later, not even 10 years, nowadays it's 1 year later, 2 years later, the relationship blows up in her face. And remember, she was the one telling you that it's not all men because she has to do that. The only thing that she has is the bribe. And I'm just going to also add this because I need for you to understand why I am calling his wife a pick-me and all of the women around him pick-me's is because there's body cam footage of when the police actually, they go to his house and they have to pick him up. They have to pick him up because they're arresting him for what he did, right? And the scene is it's not graphic, it's just so disgusting, the amount of coddling that you see going on for this man. Like, if you watch the footage, he's on all fours and his wife is patting his back and she's caressing his hair, and his wife and his mother-in-law are so upset. But they're not upset because the child died. They are upset because the police officers are there to arrest them. Do you understand what I'm saying? The police officers come to arrest this man for neglecting his child, and his wife is upset with the police and are telling the police that they can't pick him up because he needs to mourn. There's a funeral. They have things to do and he can't get arrested right now. These are the women that surrounded this man. So when I say, when you read other comment section, everyone is calling the mother-in-law like a boy mom, and they're going on and on and on because look at the amount of coddling that this man did. If the tables were turned and the wife were the one, was the one who left the child in the car, she would never hear the end of it. But for some reason, everyone is handling this man, who I believe is a monster, an irresponsible monster. Everyone is handling him with white gloves. He's crying. He's more upset in this video when he gets arrested than in the video where you see him and the child is dead on the floor and his wife is performing CPR. But I just want you to listen to this interaction with his wife and the police officer. Just listen.
One of the arresting officers then talks with Scholtes' wife and someone who appears to be his mother-in-law.
You go with the So, I know there's a lot going on and I know you're angry. And it's okay to be angry, okay? As an arresting officer, I can't change the law.
I know. But seriously? Mom. His daughter, he's suffering.
Mom. I know.
The funeral. He knows.
I know. Mom. I know he's feeling the guilt. I know he's feeling anguish. I can't change the law, okay? So the next steps after this, okay, he's going to county right now. He'll be booked. He has to see a judge within 24 hours. That's the law. He'll see a judge within 24 hours. Okay, at that initial appearance, between him, the judge, and the prosecutor is what's determined as far as his conditions of release, any bond, things like that. And then as far as what proceeds forward with regards to the charges, how the county attorney decides to issue the case, what they feel is best, that's going to be in the court system and with the prosecutors. All right, my involvement up to the point of issuing today, it's done. Like, I don't have any more. I can't change the law, all right? Obviously,
I understand you're just a messenger.
And it's okay for you to be angry at me. I'm not offended. Like, it's okay to vent your frustration. But I want you guys to understand that this has to take place. This is something that has to go forward. Okay?
Another officer explained that Scholtes may not even be kept in jail.
And I'm not sure if he covered it, but he may not be held. It's up to the judge whether or not he's held. So there's
He doesn't. It's not like he doesn't have prior history and things like that. They take this into consideration, and obviously they take into consideration the family dynamics of what's going on.
Okay, thank you guys.
Schultes appeared in court the next morning.
The state is asking for a $1 million bond.
They're treating him like this infant. They're tiptoeing around him. They don't want to arrest him. And if you see the production in the show that he put on, when they put the handcuffs on him, he's passing out. He can't breathe. He's more distraught now than he was, like I said before, when his daughter died. He's more distraught now than when he was when he found out that this child, died in his truck. And, I just wanted to add that in there as to why I consider his wife to be the ultimate pick-me, because you should never want to see this man again. But because she is still married to him, she's even requesting that, he needs to be around his other children at this point. Why does he need to be around his other children at this point in time? He didn't even want to be around them before. He left them in the car all the time to play video games. Why all of a sudden is it now that he has this interest in being around them? It's all bullshit. She's a pick-me, and I don't, I think, and a lot of people are saying, they both need to be charged at this point. They both need to be charged because she knew that he was negligent. That therefore makes her also negligent. And just a little side note, I just want to give you some comments to this story. I think these are all on Facebook. Someone wrote, I can never understand how a parent can just forget their child in a car. This is a tragedy of the worst kind. Another person wrote, my heart breaks for the whole family. I know the weight of their guilt, and it will be a long road to halfway healing. They will never heal completely. Another person wrote, they have games in prison too. I agree. Someone, Benjamin Daniels, wrote, it doesn't matter what he was distracted by. He was distracted when he shouldn't be. And Justin Lee wrote, how the fuck do you forget a kid in the car and that the car is running for a few hours? That's wild. This is absolutely despicable. Another person wrote, and I feel like he definitely needs time behind bars to rethink his priorities. Someone else wrote, he needs to be in jail and his wife needs to go to counseling for why she would want him to come back home. Absolutely ridiculous. Precisely. I'm not sure why she's so invested in him coming, back home, but let's continue. He needs to be put in a car on a 100-degree day for an hour and let him feel exactly what that baby felt. The wife knew that he's done it several times before. Why leave the kids with him? They should both be charged. Another person wrote, I can't imagine what that mom and the two siblings are going through. Made me feel sick to read this. How can someone knowingly be so irresponsible and dangerous with a child's life? Heartbroken. Another person wrote, how can a mother protect her husband after doing it over and over again? Justice needs to be served. Rest in peace, baby girl. Another person wrote, dude, I wouldn't want him near the other kids. This is heartbreaking. Rest in peace, sweet girl. I felt bad for him until I read the article. He left the kids in the car regularly and lied about the time she had been in there. I can't believe his wife is protecting him. His wife is a pick-me. She is a pick-me, and this is a reason why she's so desperate to get him back home. And I think she wants him to come back home because she thinks that, well, he's already going through so much and he's suffering, and it doesn't make sense that I add on to, what he's feeling right now because of this, what happened with this tragedy. But the pick-me is very invested in the feelings of the male. This is why I said that the liberal feminist is a pick-me, because the feelings of the male, however he feels, if he's not feeling coddled, if he feels excluded, she has to kind of pick up the pieces for males, the man's emotions. And she's always doing this emotional labor for the man. So his wife, she's going through what she's going through after having, found her daughter that way. But she's so concerned with how he's feeling that she's saying, well, we need him home, Your Honor. We need him to come home. Also, someone wrote that poor baby suffered a horrible death. And the fact that he just regularly left his kids in the car lets you know that this was no accident. His wife texts seal the deal on what he should be charged with. Absolutely. And this is why the single woman should really focus on cutting that pick-me out of her life. Because a lot of the times the pick-me will use the single woman, one I said as a soft landing, but also another thing is a sounding board in her relationship. If something is going on in her relationship, she'll take the single girl's advice, bring it to that relationship, ruin the relationship, and then go back to the single person and blame them because it blew up. Remember when Cardi B first got cheated on by Offset? She ran to the public. She ran to every single woman in the United States and complained. Then what happened 2 minutes after that? Didn't she go right back to Offset? This always happens with the married pick-me. This always happens with the pick-me. It's back and forth. And let me tell you, here's another thing. When it's all roses and when it's all hunky-dory and paradise, you are very forgotten as the single girlfriend. You are only remembered when there's drama in the air. You are only remembered when there's something going on and she can't handle it herself and she needs her single community, her single friends community to kind of pick her up and to hold her together. But when things are good, when things are perfect, when he's not cheating on her that month, when it's probably her birthday or something is happening where he's being semi-decent to her, you are easily forgotten. You need to cut the pick-me out of your life. You need to cut her out of your life. You need to stop listening to her because I said this before. If you ever see a married woman on these apps and you know that they're married, but every single one of their videos is about how men are trash, why isn't your man trash? Let's talk about your relationship. What do you hide it? Right? Get into the comment section. Let me know. Yeah.